What is up, my Majin Buu crew? It's your boy, King Majin, coming back at you guys with another video. And today, I'll be doing the long-awaited part 4 to What if Deku was the reincarnation of Tai Lung? If you haven't seen the original video, go check it out. There should be a playlist on the channel for it, so yeah. And, yeah. Last time I had you guys pick names for Deku's attack. And the name that stood out to me the most was Blueburn by Crimson, so yeah. This name was simple and cool, so I really enjoyed it, so that's the name of his attack from now on. Yeah. And I had you guys come up with names for the Mystery Woman. And the name that really stood out to me the most, and I really enjoyed, was Gina Valentine. This one's by Brian, so yeah. I really enjoyed I just really like the name. Gina seems like something, she seems like a Gina to me. And the Valentine part was just me, so yeah. Yeah, that's basically it. So you guys, let's get into it. No more rambling, let's get into the video. What if Deku was the reincarnation of Tai Lung, part 4. Where we last left off, Rick and Tsubaki were in the training room just talking about the mysterious woman. So, that's the recap. If you guys haven't seen the original part, go check it out, but seriously, that's just the last part that happened. But anyway, later on that day, the next day, Deku, Ojiro, and Mimi will be walking to school, where they will get crowded by reporters asking about All Might. And all three of them together would say no comment, all throughout the reporters, with Mimi saying, "I've always wanted to say that to people." And Deku would say, "I noticed." And she would then punch Deku in the arm, saying, "Shut up." Yeah. After that, they would go into class, where Aizawa would then tell them how they're gonna need to pick a class rep. Everyone in class would basically want to vote for themselves until Ida would mention how they should all just vote for themselves. Yeah, pointless that. But anyway, they will all vote, and the people who would be voted as class representative and vice rep would be Deku and Mimi. Deku would have got the large majority of the male vote, with Mimi getting the full majority of the female vote. Yeah, so these two would be class rep and vice rep. They will both be pretty happy about that, saying, "Looks like we're stuck with each other for a while." And Deku then say, "Apparently, Mimi," as they will both laugh. Afterwards, they will all head to lunch, with the gang just talking. At this time, they would then find out about Ida's past and how he's from a hero family, with Ochako asking him how much money does he make, and he would then say, "We're comfortable," and she would say, that's exactly something a rich person would say." And as everyone would start laughing about this, they would hear an alarm. A student would come running past them, and Deku would then grab him, asking what's going on, and he would then say, "The alarm's going off. That means there must be a villain trying to break in." As Deku would be wondering, what villain would be stupid enough to attack UA? They will all be through the hallway, getting pushed up against the window, until Ida, Deku, Mimi, and Ojiro, no, not Ojiro, Mimi, Deku, and Ida will all see the reporters breaking in. As they will be looking, Ida would then try to get Ochako to touch his hand to make him float weightless so he could tell everyone, but before he could even do so, Mimi and Deku would go bouncing off the walls, jumping up towards the exit sign, and grabbing onto the bar, hanging from there, and telling everyone, "Calm down! It's just reporters. You guys are like a bunch of scared little children. We're supposed to be heroes here." And as everyone would then calm down, and yeah, everyone would be calm after this. Deku and Mimi would then jump to where Ida, Ojiro, and Ochako are, and they will be pretty impressed about how they got everyone to be quiet. Ida would then say, "It was right of me to vote for you as class rep." And Deku would say, "Thanks, man. I'll do you proud." And as Ida would then say, Not say he would just make the noise. But after this, they will go to class, and Aizawa would then mention about going to the USJ. They will all head up on the bus, getting dressed into their hero outfits, and as Deku and Mimi will get everyone onto the bus, they will all be on the bus heading to the USJ until Asu would say, "Deku, your quirk is pretty incredible. It's like you have a mutation quirk plus an emitter quirk." And Deku would say, "I only have a mutation quirk. What you've seen thus far has been chi." As Kaminari would then say, "You mean that stuff from those action movies?" And Deku would say, "Yes, those action movies." And Kaminari would say, "But I thought all that was fake." And Deku would then say, "Nope," as he would then ignite a small bit of flame into his hand. And he would say, "Suyu," or Su, as he preferred to be called, "put your hand to this flame." And as Suyu would be pretty scared to do this, but she would then trust Deku, putting her hand over the flame. As she would put her hand over the flame, she would feel a warm sensation, not burning. But as she completely covers it, the flame will appear right in between her hand, her palm, and the back of her hand. She would see the flame sticking out from there. And she would ask, "How are you doing that?" And he would then say, "I'm letting my chi pass through your hand." Anyone can do it. Everyone has chi. As Asu would say, will I be able to do that?" And Deku would then say, "People with quirks have an extremely hard time even using chi to strengthen their bodies, let alone emitting it." And Suyu would then say, "Don't you have a quirk?" And Deku would then say, "Yes, but I'm a special case. Apparently my quirk allows me to use chi much better." And as Asu would then say, "Oh, you think I will be able to do it? Because in some ways our quirks are similar." And Deku would then say, "Maybe." And as Kaminari would then say, "So, you said you can strengthen your body with that stuff?" And Deku would then say, "Yeah." And as everyone would be going on about Deku's quirk and all about chi, asking him questions, and Kirishima will be asking him, can he teach him and all that stuff, they will all arrive at the USJ. They will go into the USJ, seeing 13 and her getting her whole speech about how quirks can be used to hurt people and all that, and Ochako geeking out about 13 being her favorite hero, as Deku just stands by her laughing a little bit, as she's saying, "What's so funny?" And Deku would then say, "Nothing." And as Ochako would blush a little bit, as Mimi's looking on, feeling a tad bit jealous. As this would be going on, Deku would then pick up something with his nose, and he would then say, "Mr. Aizawa, what's that down there?" As Mr. Aizawa would then look at where Deku's pointing, he would then see nothing until a bunch of villains start appearing out of a portal out of nowhere. They would be appearing, and Aizawa would then tell 13 to keep the students safe, as he would go down, systematically taking down the villains. Pretty easily. As everything would be going on, Ida would then get out there, as Deku would then instruct him to, So he would be running to get help, and Deku, Mimi, and Bakugo would blast towards Origiri to take him out before he can teleport them away or something like that. But they would be too late, and all of Class 1A would be teleported away. Mimi and Ochako would be teleported to the Disaster City part of the USJ, where they would start to take down all the villains around that area, and running into some of the other students from Class 1A as well. Deku would be thrown into the same situation as in the original canon with Tsuyu and Mineta. As they would have done on the boat, they would have all been discussing a plan, and Deku then would have grabbed both Tsuyu and Mineta and jumped as far as he could. He would have cleared halfway through the pool until he would then jump tap off the water, jumping into the sky, landing on land. So he is pretty quick. So he's not super speed quick, but he has enough skill to, well, jump off of a flat surface of water. You guys have seen those movies when martial artists run on water, so you guys get why I'm going with this, right? Okay, good. As we're going down, Eraserhead Aizawa will be taking down Tomura Shigaraki. They'll be going head to head until he would get his arm decayed. And then Tomura would then call the Nomu to take care of Aizawa, severely damaging his arm. As this will be going down, Tsuyu and Deku and Mineta will be looking on as he would then notice them, Shigaraki that is, he would then notice Deku, Tsuyu and Mineta, and he would go towards Tsuyu to decay her. Deku, without a second thought, will grab his hand, kicking him away from Tsuyu. Like how martial artists can kick up to their head, just imagine like that. Kicking all the way towards the Nomu, making him land with a thud to the ground. He would then get up, telling the Nomu to go kill that kid. As the Nomu would then charge at Deku. Deku would then activate Blue Burn, and he would tell Tsuyu and Mineta to stay back. As he would then square off against the Nomu. He would then hear, "Why have all the fun for yourself?" As Mimi would then appear, going full throttle with One For All to fight the Nomu. And Deku would then say, "I knew you'd be here just in time." As they would both be going blow for blow, using perfect teamwork to hit the Nomu, they would then notice that it's not taking very much damage, and it's absorbing the hits that it's absorbing from the attacks that do deal damage. And yeah, as this would be happening, Ochako would have met up with Tsuyu and Mineta, and they will be looking on and very impressed about how Deku and Mimi are, about their teamwork, how they're complementing one another, and their skills and strength and everything else. As this will be going on, they will keep going until the Nomu would get a huge hit on Mimi, causing her to go down to the ground, semi-unconscious. As it would be preparing to kill Mimi, Deku, he would have just gone berserk and attacked the Nomu. The Nomu would then charge at Deku, bring him to a different area altogether, as Deku's jumping back. The Nomu would have then came at Deku even harder than previously, with Deku dodging, and as he would look over to see Mimi bleeding, he would then snap, going full throttle on the Nomu, hitting it with everything he had. But this wouldn't be enough, as the Nomu would then grab Deku's head, slamming him into the ground. Deku had put up a good fight till recently, but the Nomu was not pulling any punches. This Nomu was specifically meant to take down All Might. So, it stands to reason it's just not, or if not as strong as All Might. With Deku's Berserker form only being at least 80% strength-wise and power-wise to All Might. So yeah, the Nomu would then go to finish off Mimi, thinking that's already finished off Deku. As Deku would be looking up, he would think, "No." As everyone will be looking on, saying, "No, they can't do anything because the Nomu's too strong." They'll go to check on Deku, as he's still looking, as the Nomu walks closer to Mimi. "No. No." As Tai Lung would then appear over Deku, saying, "Get up." As Deku would then say, "I can't move." As Tai Lung would then say, "You are me, and I am you. Your strength is my strength. Your weakness is my weakness. Are you really gonna be satisfied letting the person you care for die?" And as Deku would say, "I can't move." And Tai Lung would then say, "That's just an excuse. We can move." As Deku would look up saying, "We?" As Tai Lung would then say, "Yes, we." As he would then fade away, and Deku would then say, We okay? Deku would then get up and say, we can do this. We can do this. As all this energy permeates throughout Deku's body, and a blinding light, he would then transform into Tai Lung, or a mixture of both Tai Lung and Deku. Everyone would be looking on in shock, and he would then say, out of my way, as he would then go behind the Nomu as it's about to finish off Mimi. He would tap it on the shoulder and it would turn around. But in a flash, over like 8 holes will appear in the Nomu's body, even partially in the brain. And it would then go flying with one kick from Deku. Deku would then put his palm over Mimi, healing her with his chi. He would then say, are you okay, Mimi? As Mimi would then say, I'm fine. Who are you? Tai Lung? And as Deku would then say, not Deku and not Tai Lung. Something in the middle. As Deku would then say, you get to safety now. And she would then be like trying to ask more questions, and Deku would then say, no. The fusion of Deku and Tai Lung would then say, no time, that thing's already regenerating. You will only get in the way. And as she would then try to argue, saying, I can help, and Tai Lung Deku would then say, no, you can't. Now move. As it would then go fighting the Nomu head to head. He would be going blow for blow with the Nomu, not getting hit, but doing tremendous damage to the Nomu. Ultimately, the Nomu can't touch him at this point, and he's just doing thunderous hit after thunderous hit, blowing limbs off the Nomu, blowing holes inside its body. And Tomura Shigaraki will be looking on at this and try to come behind him to decay him, meaning within shouts saying, look out! And as she will be saying that, he would then hit him with the back of his tail, sending him flying across the floor. As the fusion of Deku and Tai Lung would then be fighting the Nomu, they would have gotten annoyed by this. They would both jump back, honing their chi to a finer point. This would then start to expand around them, and expands even further, until chi is permeating throughout the entire body. This chi would then all of a sudden vanish, and his hands would start to glow with a bright light. He would then come charging at the Nomu, connecting with a tiger palm. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, if I'm getting the technique wrong, if you guys know how Goku does the Kamehameha to shoot an energy blast, it's just like how he positions his hands, but charging at the Nomu. So if you guys get it, you get it, or you don't. But anyway, he would hit him with all of his chi, causing the Nomu's body and his whole entire upper body to be destroyed. And you could see chi permeating throughout the explosion of energy. This will ultimately kill the Nomu, causing the fusion of Deku and Tai Lung to, win. After this, Mimi would then say, so, what happens now? And as the fusion of Deku and Tai Lung would then say, I go back to normal because I can't hold this any longer. Or we can't hold this. As Deku would then fade back to his normal self. Mimi would then go to hug him, seeing that he's pretty badly injured. Deku would then say, I'm fine, you're hurting my ribs. And as Deku would then stand up on his own, he would then say, is everyone okay? As he would then say that, All Might would then come. Not smiling, he would then come down, believing he needs to take down villains, but seeing that most of them have already been taken out of the equation. As this would be happening, Tomura Shigaraki and Kirigiri would be planning to leave at this point with Tomura. They would get into a portal and they would, leave. At this time, everyone would gather around Deku, saying how impressed they were and how incredible that was, and asking, have you always been able to do that? Mineta would ask, and Deku would say, that's the first time that's ever happened. As Deku would then walk forward, he would then trip up, and he would then start to take a knee. As this would be happening, Mimi would go to pick Deku up to help him up. She would then say, "Are you okay?" And Deku would then say, "I'm fine. I'm just completely out." And as Mimi would then say, "You used up all your chi?" And Deku would then say, "A large quantity of it. That form takes a lot out of me." And as Deku then still begin to slump over, Ochako would then come to help him up even more, with Mimi looking on, being visibly annoyed, and Ochako would be just holding her ground at this point. These two are friends, but they both like Deku, and neither one of them is backing down. As Deku would say, "You guys are kind of smothering me right now," that they would then both apologize for this. All Might and Eraserhead Aizawa would then come down, talking to the students about what happened, finding out that Deku was the one who defeated the giant Nomu. And basically everything goes the same way as in canon, except Deku was the one who defeated the Nomu, and All Might isn't losing anything off his time limit, so we got that. After this, Deku would then go home, telling his mom about what just happened, and she would say she already knew, and she would be very worried, but glad Deku's okay. Deku would then go in his room just to lay down for a bit. As he would be laying down, Tai Lung would then appear in front of Deku, with Deku saying, "Took you long enough to show up?" As Tai Lung would say, "Shut up, kid." And as Deku would be saying, "No, you." They would both stare at each other for a decent amount of time, until Deku would then say, "Okay, what was that?" As Tai Lung would be looking at Deku, he would then say, "That's what happens when we both fuse, in a sense of the word." And Deku would then say, "Fuse?" And as Tai Lung would then say, "Fuse. It happens when our minds, our chi, and our feelings combined." And as Deku would then say, "Huh?" And as Tai Lung would then say, "Huh? That's all you have to say?" And Deku would then say, "Pretty much. So you're basically telling me you care about Mimi as much as I do." And as Tai Lung would then say, "Shut up, kid." And as Deku would then laugh at this a little bit. But they would then begin to talk the rest of the night. But one question coming up the most: do you think we can do that again? Set from both Tai Lung and Deku. This basically means that they're gonna start working together. Tai Lung won't be... they're just gonna be working together. At this time, they would go to school a few days afterwards, and Aizawa would then mention the UA Sports Festival. Everyone would be saying, "Should we be doing this? We just had a villain attack." And as Aizawa would then say, "It's the perfect time to do this, a show of power, if you will, that we won't be stopped," and all that. And the only people, as everyone would be just skeptical about this, the only people will be excited would be Deku, Ochako, and Mimi, and Ojiro, with Ida being there too. So yeah, Ochako would then demonstrate the same determination she did like in the original canon, while Ojiro just wanted to prove that he's strong too, because at this point, my boy Ojiro, is feeling like fourth fiddle to everyone. Possibly fifth fiddle, including, But anyway, Mimi and Deku would be excited, and they would then look at each other, pounding fists, and saying, "Bring it on." So yeah. Afterwards, they would then go to the dojo, having at least 2 weeks to prepare for the UA Sports Festival. They would then begin training until Deku would then woman. Yeah, they will begin training for a bit until Deku then mentioned to Tsubaki about how he managed to somehow merge with Tai Lung to perform even greater feats with his chi. And she would then say, "So you two have started to work together." And as Deku would then say, "It sounds like you almost knew this was going to happen." And as she would then say, "I figured as much." And as Deku would then say, "Why didn't you tell me? We could have tried to work together a long time ago." And Tsubaki would then say, "It only happens when your mind, your body, your soul, your heart, and your chi are all aligned with the person you're fusing with. Or resonating with." And as Deku would then say, "Huh, you know a lot about this topic." And Tsubaki would then say, "You don't also have to have someone in your body to resonate. You can resonate with someone next to you, someone who also has chi." If you guys are wondering what this is, it's basically Deku was able to, transform into that, form by using his chi and Tai Lung's, merging them together. And he was able to basically enhance his, you guys get what I'm saying here. You guys understand the premise on that. It's basically like, once they had complete faith in one another, Deku just transformed. Basically, that's it. And when his chi reached a certain level. So, yeah. And that's basically the same premise with this. Say Tsubaki or Mimi would touch hands, and they could resonate their chi together to create something greater. Basically, it doesn't have to be like you have to have someone in your head to do this technique. So, yeah. Thought for the future, but yeah. After Deku had told her about the transformation, all that stuff, and how it felt, she would then ask, "How long can you hold it?" And Deku would then say, "At least 5 minutes." And as she would then say, "Not good enough." And as Deku would say, "Not good enough? That left me completely drained." And as she would then say, "From now on, you will be practicing that technique with me." And Deku would then say, "Come on, I just got back up." As Tai Lung would then fade behind Deku saying, "What a hard ass." And as everyone would then say, "What was that?" And Deku would then say, "Wait, they can hear you?" And Tai Lung would then say, "Only a little bit, kid." And at this time, Tsubaki would then say, "Enough of that. Let's begin the training." Oh my god! Yes. I'm sorry if I feel a little bit out of it. Right now, it's like 4 in the morning with me recording this. I haven't been asleep all day, so I just want to get this out to you as quick as possible, so yeah. Ooh. God, I'm tired. But anyway, were you guys surprised when I had Tai Lung and him basically fuse? I've been having this idea go through my head a while, so I figured it would be a good time to use it. Tai Lung has been in Deku's body for so long. He still has his rage and all that stuff to work through, but after being with Deku for so long, his rage is starting to dial back a bit, and he's starting to become a much better person. Ultimately, he is the reincarnation of Tai Lung. Deku is, that is. So, there might come a time where that fusion may or may not become a permanent thing. But anyway, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I can really use it. Seriously, I do not want to do another 4 in the morning recording. If you guys have gotten to this part, comment down below. TT. No, not TT. That's weird. Comment down below. Blueburn. So yeah. Well, that's it. Next video will be What If Deku was a Werewolf Part 3. So yeah. So I'm rambling on here. This has been King Machin telling you guys, well, tell me what you think of the story. Signing out. Peace.